Hello, everyone. Welcome to another week. I hope you have had a great week this week. And we are going to finish up on Chapter 9 in Well Said. We're looking at rising and falling tones and what meaning it conveys in English. And we are picking up at Rule 9-6. So here's what it says. We often use a rising tone to check the listener's background information. It's basically like saying, you know this, right? You're aware of this, or aren't you? So it's a way to figure out if they know what we're talking about or not, so we know whether to move on or whether to make more explanation. So if you listen, and you can listen to CD3, track 33, you know the McDonald's on 2nd Street? So we're trying to see if they know where that restaurant's location is and if they know the name of that restaurant. So on a confirmation check, we're trying to see if whoever our listener is knows. We're going to raise our voice up because we're showing them that we're not sure that they know. Now, if I'm sure that they know, I could say, you know the McDonald's on 2nd Street. See? If I'm sure they know, I'm going to drop my voice because I'm making more of a statement. But if I'm pretty sure or I'm not sure that they know, then it's a confirmation, just like you've learned it before. It's a rising tone for confirmation. We call that checking for background, the listener's background, okay? Now, the listener has a choice. They can say, like, go on, why do you want to know? Or they can say, just meaning, yes, that's right. And then they just expect you to go on. So really, it's not required of the listener to go up in the tone. They're just letting me know, yeah, why? So I can raise my tone. Or I can just be flat out confirming, Okay? So it's not a requirement that it goes up or down. Depends on the listener's feelings. Okay. Well, my apartment's directly across the street. Street. That's just it's going to go up a little. Remember, you learned that you have to go up a little bit before you go down, even if it's a one-syllable word, because we have to rise before we can come down a little, right? Even if it's not necessarily a stress, it's a rise in tone. And that's because we're giving this new information that it's across the street. We're giving this new information, and that's what it says right here, okay? All right. Now, let's take a look at the note. So the note below is just saying when the tone goes up, we could be doing it to check background knowledge. We're sure of ourselves. We're just not sure of our listeners' knowledge. But upspeak, as they're talking about here, is when we're not sure of ourselves. Okay? Am I allowed to go? Am I the new president? Okay, that's a little bit different in upspeak when we're uncertain of our knowledge. But when we're uncertain of someone else's knowledge, that's a different type of intonation coming up. And what we're doing is we're trying to check our listener's knowledge, not our own knowledge. Okay? So let's go on to the next page, see what we have. And then you can go ahead and do track 34, just so you can get used to when we go up in tone to check background knowledge. You know Teresa in writing class? Yeah. You know, she's a math whiz. Well, she got a perfect score on the math SAT. New information I'm giving you. I'm not checking your background knowledge anymore. Now I'm sharing new information with you. Okay? So you can go ahead and do the dialogue. And I definitely recommend that you go through this because when you take the quiz, at the end of this week, it'll be the Chapter 9 quiz. I may have sound files for you to listen to. And I'm going to say, is this rising or falling tone? So, and why is it rising and falling? So you definitely want to make sure that you practice on these exercises and with the CDs. Okay, let's look at Rule 9-7. Now what we're doing is in questions and statements that give choices, the first alternative has a rising intonation, letting you know that actually more is to follow or a choice is to follow. And the second choice is falling to let you know that's the end of the choices. That's You've got this or that, okay? So we're going to give you these two alternatives, and the first one rises and the second one falls. So is the exam today or tomorrow? Today, first choice, tomorrow, end of the choices that I'm listing, okay? To be or not to be. We know that from Shakespeare, right? Okay, so exercise 6 will give you practice in this. This is fairly to the point, fairly common. I think all of you will understand it because it's two choices. And the first choice is up, second choice is down. So you'll be able to get through this pretty quickly, okay? Was the light yellow or red? Is the speed limit 65 or 70 miles per hour? Should you walk on the sidewalk or on the shoulder? Should we take your car or mine? Okay, and you probably do this naturally in your own speech as well, and even in your own patterns from your language, you might have something similar, a rising, falling. Some of you might have different tones, but it's very common. A question and then the final choice. All right. And then you can do more as practice on your own. And then there's a poetry practice if you want to do that. I'm not requiring it. If you like the poem, great. I wasn't crazy about it myself. It was kind of depressing a little bit, but if you want to practice it, it's up to you. Okay. It says you're not expected to memorize the pattern or even remember them all. It's just to be aware of them. And then as you listen, you might want to quiz yourself every once in a while and go, oh, you know, I just listened to that speaker and she gave two choices. And I noticed her pattern going up and then down. It's just to make you more aware. And if your goal is to be more native-like in your pronunciation and in how you're understood, then refining these tones may be of special interest to you. And it helps you be understood as well, so that the native speaker catches your meaning more quickly and is more likely to answer you the first time without asking what you meant. Or if we understood, we definitely know that you are a non-native speaker of English, which is perfectly fine, by the way. Okay. So here's going to be more practice for you as you take a look. The book is going to give you more things to do here. So we have some ideas when we get to the end of final or non-final thought groups. This one is intonations at the end of non-final thought groups. And it's going to give you a hint here. It says non-final intonation connects thoughts within sentences. It tells your listener that you want to continue speaking. So it kind of holds your turn to speak. We just have this way of having either a lift to say, okay, I'm at the end of this thought group, but it's not my final thought. So don't interrupt me. I want to say more. Okay? Now, we interrupt each other all the time, but if we catch the clue from the speaker, then to be polite, we will wait and then let that speaker continue that non-final thought group until he or she gets to the final thought group. So it says, if you hear a deep or full fall at the end, the pitch fall falls down at the end of a thought group, it probably is the final thought group, and the speaker is probably telling you that he's finished with his or her turn. If you really hear a deep or full fall, and that's a probable, okay? I can't see, and I'm kind of done. And then it's probably your turn to go, what can't you see? What's the problem? Okay? I'm probably giving up my turn to speak by making my statement. However, if you hear a partial fall or rise, it is probably a non-final thought group. Okay? It's a thought group, but I'm not finished speaking. Okay? I wish to continue. So let's take a look at what that's saying here. In the first one, I can't see paying that much for rent. So here it's like, dun, 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 what's she going to say next? It's that little rise And that pause, that lets you know I'm going to keep going. Or a full rise, I can't see paying that much for rent. Okay, at the very end. I can't see paying that much for rent. Hmm. And that just gives you that. You have to also have that rise even on the very last word in the thought group, because that is what that rise in tone is giving you, that I'm just about to continue on. Okay, so there's a really good exercise that is on the next page that you really should do. So let's go there and see what the next thought is. So if you listen to track 38 on CD3, then you will get some really good information on how these tones go up and down to show finished or unfinished. Now, track 38 is going to read one of the two, an A or B, and you're supposed to just tell by the tone, is this finished or unfinished? And what you'll hear them say on the CD is, the food looks good. Just based on that tone, you would want to circle unfinished. However, if I said, this food looks good, then you would have circled finished. But the food looks good, that rise in tone tells us, that person's going to say more about it. And then the exercise is going to read either A or B, and based on what you hear, you're going to, by the tone, you're either going to say that's a finished thought group, or no, that's an unfinished thought group. I think that person is going to say more. Okay, so make sure you do this exercise because it's very important for you to really get this concept. And I'll do a few more for you right here. In writing, we do it with an ellipsis. This is called an ellipsis right here, the 3 dots. Tells the reader that there's more to follow. But when I'm speaking to you, I don't go ... My tone of voice lets you know that I'm not finished. I'm unfinished, okay? That food looks good, but Stevie, but I've eaten there before and it's not that good. Let's do 2A. Her sister's really nice. Her sister's really nice. More than likely, I'm done, okay? I'm just waiting for you to ask me why she's nice, or you're just going to agree with me. But now I'm going to change my stress. I'm going to stress sister here. And then I'm going to have a rising tone. Her sister's really nice. Her sister's really nice. Okay, that's when this person would go, okay, but then who's not nice? Her sister's really nice, but her brother isn't. Okay, so notice that the stress got shifted to the content word here. So we got a focus word, sister, here. The focus word in 2A was nice. We're talking about a sister, and what about her? She's nice. But this time, we're going to change 2 things in B. In B, I'm going to stress the focus word is going to change to sister. And then I'm going to rise my tone instead of fall. Okay? I'm not going to fall it because I'm not done. So I'm changing my focus word to sister, and then I'm going to go up to show that I have more to say about my statement. Her sister's really nice, but her brother's not that nice. Okay? Let's do this one. I speak some Spanish. I speak some Spanish. I speak some Spanish. Let's look at B. I speak some Spanish. I speak some Spanish. Spanish. Now I changed my focus word from Spanish to some. I'm limiting it. And now I have more to say. As you can see, you should see by my tone, but the 3 dots is another clue that that's happening. Okay? So in B, 3B, I speak some Spanish, but only a little because I just took a semester. See, I have more to say about my rising tone. I'm keeping my place as a speaker because I want you to know I have more to say. Don't interrupt me. Okay? All right. So do the rest on your own. Try your hand at it. See if you can tell and practice a lot. And then play track 39 because they're going to do both. They're going to do both for you. And then you can really see that tone difference and how it changes the meaning. It's excellent. So highly recommend you do that. Okay, and finally, no, we actually have two more. We have rule 9-8 and rule 9-9. So let's continue with that. Okay, rule 9-8. It says, in general, the end of a non-final thought group has a partial fall or a partial rise. It really just depends on the speaker. They're just going to vary it just a little bit to let you know I'm still speaking. Okay? So, we have here, her biggest concern, I'm still talking, is that her neighbor's watchdog is so unfriendly. Final thought group, final fall. Okay? Now, one of the most common mistakes students make is using a full fall instead of a partial fall at the end of a non-final thought group, which means that you're going to have native speakers talking over you or interrupting you because they think you're done. And you might feel that that's rude and say, well, I wasn't finished. And that might surprise the non-native speaker because you indicated to them through a full falling tone that it was the native speaker's turn to speak, or whomever you are speaking to. So it just is better to know that if you're not finished, get that little bit of a rise so we know to let you keep talking, okay? You can practice here on the anecdote here and just follow the markers for you, okay? So at the end of a fact-filled speech, a candidate looked out at his audience and asked, now, are there any questions? A voice from the back of the room asked, who else is running? Who else is running? Okay, so you get that fall. The anecdote too, which I think is really funny, by Winston Churchill. Now the speaker on, let's see, do you guys get a CD on this one? Maybe not. So this is kind of it wasn't a compliment that Prime Minister said to this woman, but the woman kind of deserved it, actually. But this is an actual quote from Winston Churchill. Let's see. Prime Minister Winston Churchill was a frequent dinner guest at the White House. At dinner one evening, a woman seated next to Churchill kept complaining about his policies. She told him, if I were your wife, I would give you poison. He replied, Madam, if I were your husband, I would take it. That's pretty awesome. So anyway, you can, they do give the CDs here. So you can take it and listen for yourself and practice that. All right, so we're going to be getting into, it talks a little bit about the TOEFL and practicing the intonation patterns, because in the listening part of TOEFL and the speaking tasks, they often make you repeat this. So that's up to you if you want to do it. Again, it's really good practice to come in here, try to get the tones. If you want to actually write the tones yourself, so when you go back and practice, you've got arrows telling you which way to go. Okay? And then once you do that, you can go back and listen. Again, highly recommend you guys practice, because in the exam, you're going to have to be able to identify rising and falling tones. Okay, let's go to rule 9-9. This is one of the really easier ones that I think that you'll see, because you're used to items in a series, And items in a series means that you have two, more than two actually, list of two or more items. And for every item that's not the final, there's a rise, rise, rise. So you can have 15 things on your list, and you make a rise on all of them except the final. The final means I'm finished, and it's your turn. Okay? So let's look at our example. Well, we'll look at the rule. When you list two or more items, there's a partial rise on each item except the last, which I said. Okay? While you're at the store, please get pens, paper clips, and file folders. Okay? So this should be pretty easy for you. The Environmental Protection Agency protects air, soil, and water. Okay? So ba, ba, ba. Hmm, hmm, hmm. So that's, if you hum it, that's the way it's going to sound. And like I said, this is a pretty straightforward, and I think you already do this naturally. So go ahead and practice that with the remaining that you have. And there we have it. 9 rules for the entire chapter in 9. And you're only going to get better if you practice. You know, I don't ask you to turn in much practice, so I'm just assuming you are. And then this week you're going to be commenting on the 10 sentences that you repeated after Jennifer in Jennifer ESL. And your students are going to see which rule you were applying to the rise. It's going to take you some real brain power. But I have all the explanations in the discussion board for week 13. So anyway, have a great week, everybody. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye now.